you shared an article in a publication called True North. So this was after the discovery of the graves in British Columbia. It was obviously a lightning bolt in terms of the discussion in this country around Indigenous people and the history of treatment of Indigenous people. It was basically an article about how the media is getting it wrong, and included a line that I shared with you. Canada's residential schools, however misguided, had the intent of educating children, assimilating them into the broader Canadian population, and ultimately lifting them out of poverty. And you've spoken fairly frequently on this issue and your concerns about certainly media coverage and government and the framing of all of that. Mm-hmm. And we've shared some of this with Indigenous clients, so NIHB clients. And I can tell you, perhaps not surprisingly, that there was a negative reaction to this kind of thing. In many cases, they are generational survivors. Residential schools is a big part of their backgrounds. Another theme that has emerged for us is that this idea of not being believed, et cetera.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I hope you can understand that this framing is to many of them offensive. So tell me your lens on it. Just react to that reaction that we got.
Anyone who takes umbrage or offense or is hurt by any of these kind of comments, I can understand that. I mean, I deal with trauma all the time, intergenerational, personal, like every type imaginable. So I don't begrudge somebody who maybe sees something and either they misinterpret it or they don't take it in context and everything like that. In the worst case scenarios, like that, they completely misjudge something that's said. Okay, so I would never begrudge them for that because again, they are suffering. They're going through pain that that most people can't imagine. So from the start, if anyone says anything, if they have a bad reaction and so on, I fully understand that. Okay, the True North article. No mass graves have been discovered. Anomalies in the soil and the patterns we're using this technology have been discovered, but no mass graves. And the True North article, notwithstanding that one line, okay, I thought was a pretty reasonable article. And it, in itself, it mentioned the horrors that First Nations people have experienced historically and currently. And even when I reposted that, I said two things to be true at once. We can acknowledge these horrors while also saying that we have to be responsible in reporting on these kinds of news stories. That was the only intent.
I take your point, and there's been some academic work on this. Just recently, University of Manitoba did a content analysis of almost 400 news stories, and they found, vast majority were accurate. There were some that were not, and those inaccuracies have largely been corrected. There was a recent report from TRC saying that the investigation continues. There is, the evidence remains. There's no conclusions to be drawn. So I understand that point, but you have repeatedly posted on Twitter and other places. Mm-hmm. What is it about that particular issue that has inspired your interest and your public statements? Is there something specific about it?
No, it's not that issue per se, but it's the consequences. How many churches were burned down after those stories came out? Quite a few, including churches that First Nations people use themselves. To me, it's broader. I forget which country it was, but a leader said, you can't speak to us about, human rights, when you yourself is an admitted you yourselves are an admitted genocidal nation. Okay. So when that kind of language is used, it doesn't help anybody. So again, the indignities, the horrors, that we can't deny that. It's bad enough as it is. So when people inflate it to something beyond that, I'm worried about the impact on people.
Do you have any concerns that type of public statement questioning this as vigorously as you do could have repercussions for patients? And you're a guy whose name is on the NIHB list. You're registered there. Is there a concern that there might be people that will see those statements and your name on this list of caregivers, right, and be troubled by it and potentially add to their harm?
That's very tricky, because if again, as you said, every time I post, I think there may be an exception, but I'm pretty sure that when I've reposted these stories, I put my commentary where I explicitly state expressing concern about the reporting of these anomalies with no understanding of what they represent does not negate what we know to be true. And even if we don't know some of the stuff that we don't know for fact, if we hear enough people recounting stories of what happened to their, grandmother or siblings or something like that, I'm taking that at face value. Okay. So I understand what you're saying. And if I hear if that this is causing concern, I would want to speak with anybody who feels hurt and say, I'm not denying that. All I'm saying is, let's be accurate. What has happened in Canada is bad enough.